You got it.
Good morning, everyone. And sorry, my video is not cooperating. And thank you for this opportunity to present at this IHSES conference. And I'm David Kumar. I'm a professor at Florida Atlantic University. I work in the area of science education. And I'm presenting with my colleague, Dr. Sharon Moffitt. She's also at Florida Atlantic University. The title of our presentation is Exploring the Impact of Selected Noyce STEM Scholar Programs, Interview Findings. Next slide, please. And the Florida Atlantic University, part of a collaboration of 3 institutions, which received NSF funding to study the training and supply of STEM teachers to high-need schools. And we also have 4 partner universities, 2 each from Florida and Texas. And we actually studied the STEM teacher preparation in those programs, supported by Robert Noyce Scholarship Program. The Noyce program provides support in 4 tracks. Track 1 is scholarships and stipends intended for undergraduate students. And track 2 supplies teaching fellowship to help transition those already working in a STEM field to transition into teaching. And track 3, master teaching fellowship program. And track 4 is for research. And that is the grant which Florida Atlantic University is part of. And the relatively little is known about how the teacher candidate pools in Noyce programs develop and evolve as scholars progress through the Noyce programs. Within the track 4, this study, we will be describing one of 3 studies, part of a mixed method studies. That is an interview study which we carried out, part of the track 4 evaluation. The Noyce programs, I don't know how many of you are maybe familiar with Noyce programs. The Noyce teacher program receives, the Noyce Scholars receive Noyce Scholarship funds, and they agree to work in a high-need school district after they complete their training as a condition of receiving those funds. According to the National Science Foundation, a high-need school district is defined as something in Section 201 of the Higher Education Act, and is based on a variety of measures, including student eligibility for free and reduced price lunch program, teacher qualifications, and teacher turnover in the district. And if you are not familiar with high need schools, as I said, the term high-need school means a public elementary or secondary school that is located in an area in which the percentage of students coming from homes below the poverty line, that is 30%, or should be 30% or more. To determine high-need school, they use the poverty level in the United States, according to the Department of Education for Outreach and Student Services. In 2019, for a family of 4, 150% of the federal poverty level was $38,625. The National School Lunch Program also uses these thresholds to determine the eligibility for free or reduced price lunch. So this objective 3 is the responsibility of Florida Atlantic University. As I mentioned, is a mixed method study, and we have 3 major questions to find answers for. What are the demographics and qualifications of the STEM teacher candidates pool, and how do they change during the training process? How do local high-need districts perceive teachers coming from Noyce institutions? Do different programs have varying levels of success getting candidates, especially high priority ones, through their programs? Next slide, please. So one of the 3 studies was a semi-structured interview And before the semi-structured interview, we conducted an alumni survey. The year before that alumni survey, we conducted a programmatic data inventory. And before the programmatic data inventory, we we systematically collected and analyzed and reviewed program evaluation reports coming out of those STEM, Noyce STEM teacher education program. So our research was guided by the following research questions. What factors contribute to the development and success of the Noyce student teachers? And what is the essence of teacher experience in the Noyce program? And what is the perception of school leaders of their Noyce teachers? Next slide, please. So our qualitative methodology used a phenomenological research model. And as I said, we did the analysis of the literature review and programmatic data inventory, then alumni survey, and then we developed the questionnaire for the interviews based on the three studies I just mentioned. And the main groups we interviewed were school leaders, human resources or other licensure personnel, cooperating or mentor teachers, program professors, and supports. And then we also did a focus group with the 4 university program coordinators. They are also a part of the NSF project. And we did everything under after approval from the Florida Atlantic University Institutional Review Board. Sharon, you can.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, depending upon where you are. So I just want to go over just a little bit of our methodology. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a pretty extensive slide. We did use the Moustakis based on Moustakis 1994 phenomenological research model. One of the things that I would like to say is that we worked very closely, as David already mentioned, with the coordinators from all 4 universities. And from them, not only did they help us develop these questions, they also gave us a list of who we could contact, who were those people from their university in all 4 of those categories. And they gave us a pretty extensive list. We sent emails to all of the participants, but we were still short. So back to the coordinators.
Okay, I'll do that. See you. But you can hear this talk going on. Thank you.
Okay, and then we had a pretty extensive strategy for reminding them, for asking them again, and we did everything possible to make sure that we met at their time, even though there were time zone differences. If it was 8 o'clock at night or 5 o'clock in the morning, we met at their time, which helped us get our groups. We individually looked at all the transcripts we did Zoom, so it was transcripts from Zoom, and we checked those out. We identified meeting units individually, each researcher, and then we clustered them into themes, which were 4 major themes: support, communication, scholar skills, and placement. And then we had some sub-themes. Under support, we had observation and feedback, mentor, hiring, and retention. Under communication, we had relationships, and under scholar skills, we had also characteristics. So just some findings from our support of mentoring. In the lit review that we conducted, mentoring was listed as like top-notch, really, really important. It was also mentioned by our alumni in our alumni survey that it was something that was either needed or was there. So what we found were that across the 4 groups, many participants commented about mentoring. However, there were all different kinds of concepts of what mentoring was. It could have been just, oh, I think I'm the mentor when they were asked, or it could have been, we have a buddy system, or I have a coach. So that was very confusing, but they all talked about some kind of mentoring-like behavior. There was little discussion of formal structured mentoring programs with any of the constituents. It was mentioned almost often in the conversations. However, there was no mention of a mentoring program that led to the success or retention of scholars. one participant did speak of the need for a program, and that quote is there. And a school leader noted when asked about mentoring, we have a new teacher program, we have a lead teacher mentor, we have buddy teachers, and the department leads for each department also kind of act in the capacity of a buddy teacher, as well as support to the new educators. And then we looked at observation and feedback, which, as we know, overflows with mentoring, but the participants seem to speak of them separately. And again, brought in that relationship piece, which we'll see again later. A stronger relationship between schools and universities would have enhanced that feedback cycle. There were discussions of personnel who were very active through classroom visits, observation and feedbacks that included the CT from certain universities. And then CT shared views of the university feedback support. One described an active and direct line of communication. And then a lot of them talked about really the only communication we had was filling out their forms and making sure we sent them back. And then there were a lot of participants that the university did not support or form relationships, or they were unaware of any supports provided by the university. And then hiring and retention is a tough one because our goal is to get these outstanding STEM teachers into our high need schools. But they ran into some roadblocks that they could not control, such as life changes. The students were at these universities for school, and then they wanted to leave. And so they didn't stay in any high need district in that area. And they had the passing exams was difficult, but also paying for the exams was difficult. These were working students and they couldn't pay for the exam, and it was also difficult for them, on another note, to finish the intern teacher because they had to quit work to do that. So there was that financial piece came up. And then, just a few comments that they just go back home, and that it's one person felt it was really exam related, anything that was exam related, the finance, the timing. But most participants felt the scholars were eligible for hiring if circumstances did not stand in the way. So relationships, communication and relationships were spoken about often. Few HR, SL, and CTs acknowledged familiarity with the Noyce program and scholar status. Many were not aware that their students were Noyce scholars. They knew they had students in biology or chemistry, but had no idea they were Noyce scholars. And one of the program support people who placed the students said that they know that they are in biology teaching degree. They don't know they're Noyce scholars. They don't share that information. And school leaders, indicated hardly, very little awareness that Noyce scholars were amongst their scholar teachers. So we had the names of the students when we interviewed them, and many of them, it was the first time they really knew they were Noyce scholars. So relationships were spoken. These students seem to be have a very good ability to relate with the school individuals and with the students. But there was little familiarity with communication between the Noyce Scholar and the Noyce program. And they did speak often about importance of building relationships with those scholars. There was very little mention of relationships with universities other than transactional correspondence during placement. They really weren't aware at the school level, district level, what was happening in the Noyce program. And then scholar skills, very strong, very, very strong. It was across the board. The scholar skills are amazing. Because of the intense education that they had in their universities, they were compared to other folks. They were quite amazing, and they are welcomed in schools, and they shaped a very positive image of the Noyce program. And truly, I think everybody that had the Noyce Scholars said they would have hired them if they had a place or if they stayed. And then placement, again, so when they finish their school and they begin to go into their intern program, the placement is very difficult. And the idea is to get them into a high need district, not necessarily a high need school, but a high need district, and David spoke about what that meant. However, there were lots of challenges. They had to make sure they had teachers that were certified, teachers were willing to do it. Scholars have a choice, matching content area of scholar to the teacher, principal agreeing to host. And again, lack of information about the Noyce program. And some of these kids, they aren't kids, but I say kids, went home to do their internship. Like, I can't stay here. I'm going to go back and live home so I can afford it. And they recounted the student choice was a primary strategy applied in scholar placement. The person said, I think the priority is student choice, and they have a choice to where they want to go. It's very hard not, to say you can't go. We don't care how much it costs. So some of our findings, supports were mentioned to a high degree, but they expressed the need for better support to include information around program and content and expectations of the scholars. They wanted to know, many of them, like, what are they doing in class? What are they expected to do in class while they're interning in my classroom? Like, what can I do to support that? Mentoring was seen to be very important, but inconsistent. Again, what is it? I don't know. I'm the cooperating teacher. I guess I'm the mentor. I try to go in and help that person sometimes. So communication was extremely inconsistent. They did not know that their students were Noyce Scholars. Many participants mentioned a lack of communication between the university and district. And even the people who were placing the scholars were sometimes not sure that they were Noyce Scholars. However, scholar skills and characteristics were seen as quite strong and desirable by all participants. Once they knew they were Noyce Scholars, they were like, oh yeah, they were amazing. And again, the length of time for student teaching presented a financial hardship for student teachers who were working to pay their way through college. And then policy implications. Considerations for policy should include a mentor program that is consistent and defined within the university program to support the scholars. Placement in high-need schools is difficult, considering a remuneration for the student teaching period may give the university ability to choose high-need school and still maintain the scholar. If they're getting some remuneration, they might be willing to stay and kind of, as opposed to their choice. Communication was lacking between the university and schools. A plan formulated in the beginning to address this would foster success of the scholars and build a collaborative community. Perhaps provide a budget line within the grant for a specific individual who is responsible for the district, university, school communication. We did see that the schools did feel like they were communicating, and then in the end, as the perceived came out with, they really weren't. So there was, I would say, effort, but not working. And then this is acknowledged as this work is based on our NS grant, which David explained to you very clearly. So any questions? I think I talked too fast, but I wanted to leave time for everybody else.
Did you see any patterns across the universities of how these played out differently in different contexts?
So we did not differentiate between universities when we asked the questions. And we did not end up with 4 people from each university for each group. So one of the groups was heavy on one university. So that was hard to determine. We also had the situation where one of the universities had been doing this for 10 years. One of the universities, this was like their first or second year. So there was a big, discrepancy in the length of time. So it was hard to do that. And we are not reporting by university, we're reporting collectively.